Don Octavio dragged a rusted key across the walnut table and left it before Elena, as if tossing down a worthless coin. Raphael received the main warehouse, the contracts, and the richest fields. Bruno got the trucks, the machinery, and the new silos. When Elena asked what the key opened, her brothers smiled. "The old mill," her father said. "It is abandoned, buried in debt, and miles from everything. But for a woman, it is more than enough." The insult was unmistakable. Elena stared at the key without touching it. That same morning, she had stopped a shipment after finding damp grain and patches of mold, preventing the contamination from reaching the entire warehouse. Yet in front of merchants and workers, Don Octavio had praised Raphael. She finally understood that no matter how many accounts she corrected or disasters she prevented, her work could save the family name, but it would never earn her the right to carry it with any pride. Raphael burst out laughing, and Bruno asked whether she planned to turn the ruin into a kitchen and sell flour. Elena closed her hand around the key, rose, and held her father's gaze. "Then I will build something that does not need your name," she said. She walked out without crying in front of them, carrying only one suitcase. Years later, when the family warehouse went to auction, Don Octavio saw that same key on a table beside the hand of the daughter they had all despised. Elena reached the mill at dusk after hours on a dirt road that seemed to carry her farther from everything she had ever known. Moisture had eaten through the facade, the windows were shattered, and the main wheel stood frozen beneath a crust of rust. When she pushed open the door, dust and stale flour burst into the air. Inside lay torn sacks, rotting beams, and silent machines. The inheritance her father called sufficient looked like a tomb built solely for her failure. From the wreckage emerged Tomas Ibarra, the last worker still guarding the place after months without pay. He showed her ledgers, receipts, and promissory notes hidden inside a damp cabinet. Elena discovered that Raphael had loaded the mill's books with repair costs, failed purchases, and losses from the main warehouse to clean up his own accounts. They had not given her only a ruin. They had also buried her beneath her brother's debts, expecting her to drown in mistakes she had never made. The next morning, Elena carried the documents to the main house and laid them before Don Octavio. She asked for neither money nor pity. She demanded that the debts return to those who had created them. Her father barely glanced at the pages before pushing them back. "If you are so capable, solve it," he said. Elena returned to the mill, throat tight. Near the road, she found small farmers rejected by the warehouse. Their grain was sound. Their harvests were simply too small for powerful men. Elena stopped the farmers before they began the long trip home. She opened one sack, plunged her hand into the grain, and found it dry, clean, and carefully tended. Mateo Salcedo explained that the warehouse accepted only large loads. Rosa Calderon had spent 3 days searching for a buyer. Elena looked toward the distant mill and made a proposal that sounded almost foolish. Help her restart one machine, and she would take every harvest without ever judging its size. Tomas said the old crusher could still run, but it needed a new belt, fresh oil, and 2 parts no one made anymore. Elena sold the only silver brooch she had kept from her mother and spent her last savings on a village blacksmith. For 6 days they scraped hardened flour from the gears, cleaned the machinery, and reinforced the beams. Mateo brought timber. Rosa cooked for the workers. At dawn on the 7th day, Elena pulled the lever, and the mill answered with a deep, heavy blow. The first wheel turned with shrieks that shook the walls. It was not a clean victory. One pipe leaked oil, the belt slipped, and everyone had to stop before noon. Elena hid nothing and did not reduce the payment she had promised. She weighed every sack in front of its owner, recorded each amount, and handed over signed receipts. When the flour finally emerged, white and warm, the farmers fell silent, as if something they had long believed lost had returned before their eyes. Over the following weeks, the mill stopped feeling like a dead building. At dawn, carts arrived carrying 2, 3, or 5 sacks, and Elena accepted only what she could process without lying about deadlines. She paid on time, recorded every weight, and separated damp grain before it could spoil the rest. The wheel still groaned and the roof still leaked, but a line began forming at the door. For the first time, small farmers had a place where their harvest mattered. Raphael laughed when he heard. He said Elena was pretending to be a merchant with leftovers while he signed the largest contract in the region. To fulfill it, Bruno packed the silos beyond capacity and bought freshly harvested grain without allowing it to dry. Inspector Hernan Rojas warned that the moisture could ruin everything, but Don Octavio preferred the numbers. "Prestige is earned by taking risks," he said, forgetting who had prevented that disaster months earlier. Rain fell for 3 nights, trapping the heat inside the silos. When a worker opened one hatch, he smelled the sourness before he saw the first dark stains. Raphael ordered the damaged grain mixed with the dry to hide the loss. Bruno had the shipment sealed before anyone could ask questions. That morning, as Elena weighed a harvest at the mill, a dust-covered cart from the main warehouse arrived. The driver climbed down, visibly pale, and asked to speak with her alone. The driver was Julian Vera, and he had worked for the Valverde family for 15 years. He led Elena behind the mill and opened a small sack hidden beneath his seat. The sour smell escaped before he could speak. He confessed that Raphael had ordered the dark grain mixed with the dry, and that one cart was already headed toward merchants in 3 towns. Elena pressed her fingers into the wet clumps and recognized the same danger no one had credited her for stopping months earlier. Elena took the sample to Hernan Rojas and returned with him to the main warehouse. Raphael met them by accusing her of trying to ruin the contract out of resentment. Bruno tried to close the gate before the inspector could enter. The workers froze. Don Octavio ordered his daughter to leave and said she was staining the family name. Elena set the sack on the table. "The name is already stained," she replied. "I came to stop you from spreading that stain inside every load." Hernan opened the silos in front of the workers and ordered every shipment stopped. The buyer cancelled the contract after receiving the report and demanded compensation greater than the warehouse reserves. Raphael insisted they only needed a loan to recover. Bruno offered the trucks and machinery as collateral. Don Octavio signed away the fields and the main building as well. Without realizing it, he had just placed his son's entire inheritance in the hands of the bank. So over the months that followed, the loan did not save the warehouse. It only delayed its collapse. Interest kept rising as buyers began avoiding the Valverde name, and even the fields were pledged before the next harvest came in. Raphael sold grain below cost just to create the illusion of activity. Bruno pawned truck parts and hid overdue invoices. Don Octavio walked the empty halls, refusing to admit that every door, machine, and acre now answered to the bank. Meanwhile, Elena's mill was running before sunrise. Small farmers kept bringing their deliveries, her flour found buyers in 6 towns, and Thomas organized a second shift without sacrificing quality. Elena reinvested every profit, paid off the debts dumped on her, and built a reserve for bad harvests. When the bank looked for someone able to keep the local contracts alive, it found that the daughter they had scorned now had clean books, prompt payments, and a network her brothers had destroyed. One afternoon, a foreclosure notice was nailed to the warehouse gate in front of the workers. The land, silos, trucks, machinery, and main building would all be auctioned. Raphael tore it down, but an official posted another copy. Bruno asked how much was still owed. No one answered. Across the road, Don Octavio saw Elena with Hernan and a bank attorney. She did not approach them. She opened a folder and asked to review every auction lot. The auction opened with the fields and trucks. Raphael raised his hand for every lot, though he no longer had credit. Bruno searched the room for buyers willing to lend him money, while Don Octavio sat motionless. When the main building was announced, Elena presented the mill's guarantee and secured the essential lots. She did not buy them to restore her family's control. She bought them to protect the workers and keep small farmers from depending again on those who had deceived them. Before everyone, Elena signed the new contracts under one condition. Raphael and Bruno would control neither accounts, warehouses, nor transport. They could work, but under the same rules as any employee. Don Octavio asked whether he would lose the house as well. "No one will be cast out," Elena replied, "but the family name will no longer grant privilege." Then she paid the overdue wages. The silence cut deeper than blame. Authority now belonged to the one who had never abused it. At dusk, Elena returned to the mill with Tomas, Mateo, and Rosa. She kept the main warehouse to distribute flour, but registered the company under the name of the mill her father had called a ruin. Later, Don Octavio placed the old rusted key on her desk and admitted he had mistaken obedience for incapacity. Elena neither erased the past nor returned control. She put the key in a drawer and opened the door to the farmers. Outside, the wheel kept turning without needing the Valverde name.